प्रियतम जणू समूर्त प्रेम आरती रामकृष्ण बाल सुलभ वचन आदि भजनी लीन मुखमंडल मधुर भाव सात्विक थोर आरती
of Vivekananda. All are welcome to that program. Now we shall go to discuss the life of the great Guru of Swami Vivekananda, that is the life of Sri Ramakrishna. We were looking into the chapter Grace Bestowed on Mathur Babu. Just as there was nothing to be concealed by Mathurnath Babu from Ramakrishna, so also Sri Ramakrishna always had, except at times of ecstasy, the attitude of a child towards its mother or of a friend towards his friend in respect to Mathurnath. Sri Ramakrishna spoke out to Mathur everything, took his counsel, accepted his advice, and sought his loving care. We have already told the reader the scriptural statement that when a person ascends to the highest stage of supreme knowledge, he appears at the best child-like, or at the worst mad in the eyes of the ordinary people. What is more, the great Acharya, Shankaracharya, the teacher adored of the world, has stated clearly in his writings that such a person never loses his poise, whether he happens to be enjoying incomparable kingly wealth or to be subsisting merely on alms. He may be dressed only with a kaupina, the lion cloth, whether he is in the state of happiness or a state of misery, according to popular estimation. Always, whatever might be the external condition, he will be dwelling in the bliss of Atman, self. He is absolutely content in self alone. So it is just self and self, Atma Ananda or Brahma Ananda, says Shankaracharya. A liberated person roams in the world, sometimes like an ignorant man, sometimes like a learned one, and at other times again like one having the opulence of a king. He sometimes appears to be like one mad, and sometimes like one calm, quiet, and intelligent. And other times again he is seen to be living like a boa. That is, a boa constrictor means the python, snake python. It's called Ajagara. So it never goes in search of the food. It will be just staying at one place. So the food will come in search of it. So that is why the example of boa, the python, is given. So without even asking for means to meet his daily needs such as food and other things. Sometimes he is very much respected in some places. He is insulted, and again in some other places he lives entirely unknown. He remains thus filled with supreme bliss, steady under all circumstances. When this is the case even with ordinary liberated persons, the Gnanis or the Jivan Muktas, it is no wonder that the supremely glorious incarnations of God remain steady under all circumstances and behave like small children. Such behavior, therefore, of Sri Ramakrishna with Mathur is not at all surprising, but it was no small good fortune for Mathur Babu to have been so intimately connected with the Master for such a long time. Ah, how sweet was the relation existing between Mathurnath and the Master during the time of the sadhana, and even afterwards. If Master required anything, he immediately asked Mathur Babu for it. About the visions of the spiritual moods that were experienced by him at the time of ecstasy or at other times, he used to ask Mathur, "Will you please tell me why such a thing is happening to me?" So Ramakrishna would have such high spiritual moods and visions, and innocently, just like a small child, Sri Ramakrishna used to ask Mathur Babu, "Can you explain to me why did I have this vision? Why did I have this experience?" As if Mathurnath Babu was an expert in yoga and everything. But because of his childlike nature, he was dependent upon everybody who was around. "Will you please tell me why such a thing happened? Please say what you think of that." To which now the Master kept an eye on Mathur's welfare so that his money might be properly utilized, so that he should not waste it, so that he can get the punya by doing the work, good work, properly utilized, so that the money meant for the service of the deity might be spent for that purpose only, and thereby guests, poor people, holy men and others who used to come to the temple, it is used for their maintenance, and so that Mathur could earn great merit conducive to his good be acquired by him. We have often heard of such conduct on the part of Sri Ramakrishna, even when we were living with him. That is, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling that Sri Ramakrishna used to behave in such a way that the devotees' money, whatever the devotees have bought, it should not be wasted, because that is the hard-earned money of the devotees. It should not be wasted in any way. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to take great care of whatever they had bought, and also tell all other disciples to use it in the right way, properly, no wastage, because it is the hard-earned money of the devotees. So that's why Shardanandaji Maharaj, who had seen the conduct, such conduct on the part of Ramakrishna, even when they, all the direct disciples, were living and coming to him long after the virtuous Rani Rasmani and Mathur had passed away. It will not be out of place here to give one example. Before that, I have seen many old timers, you can tell, the old type of sadhus, the disciples of direct disciples, the disciples of Holy Mother, then those who had seen them. So these old sadhus, we have lived with them. They would be very frugal. They would never waste anything of the ashram, because it belongs to Sri Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna behaved like that and taught everybody that you should be frugal while using the money of the devotees. You should never waste it, because those money or gift or whatever they have bought is from their hard-earned money. So it should be utilized properly. It should never be wasted. That was the idea which Sri Ramakrishna had given to the direct disciples, and the direct disciples to their disciples. So in olden days, we used to see such behavior. They used to be very, very frugal. They would not allow anybody to waste any money. But later on, because all the people who joined the monasteries are coming from the society, though we don't fall from the heavens, you see, we all come from the society. So the influence of the Western education, the influence of the present day society will be there. Gradually, that would be going away. but we have seen with our own eyes. At least if we cannot practice that frugality upon others, we have to practice that on ourselves. We should be very frugal when it comes to spending money, spending things on ourselves. For others, you can be very liberal. When you want to serve others, when you want to give others, we can be very, very liberal. But for ourselves, we should be frugal. So we have seen that in the direct disciples, in Ramakrishna himself, and also the old sadhus we have seen, we have lived with them. So now we have often heard of such conduct on the part of Sri Ramakrishna, even when we were living with him long after the virtuous Rani Rasamani and Mathur had passed away. It will not be out of place here to give one example. From the time of Mathur Babu, it had been arranged that daily, after the food offering and other services in the temple of Mother Kali and Radha Govinda had been completed, one big plateful of cooked rice with some other dishes of offered preparations and another plateful of fruits, sweets and other eatables should be sent to Sri Ramakrishna's room. So that was the arrangement done by Rani Rasamani and Mathur Babu. From the time of Mathur Babu, that had been arranged. What is that? Daily, after the food offerings and the other services in the temples of Divine Mother Kali, Bhavatarani and Radha Govinda, it has been completed. One big plateful of cooked rice with some other dishes of offered preparations and another plateful of fruits, sweets and other eatables which would have been offered to the deities should be sent to Sri Ramakrishna's room so that Master himself and others with him might partake of that consecrated food. Besides that, a part of the special offerings made to Mother Kali and Radha Govinda on festive occasions also used to be sent to the Master. It was the rainy season, the day of the worship of Palaharini Kali Puja. It was customary to celebrate the occasion on a small scale in the temple every year. There used to be a special worship of Kalika, the mother of the universe, and various kinds of fruits and roots were offered to her. On this occasion also, the same celebration was gone through. Flutes and other musical instruments were being played in the Nahabad. Swami Yogananda and others devotees were there with the Master that day. Particular characteristics of particular deities used to be manifested in Sri Ramakrishna's body and mind on particular ceremonial occasions. On Vaishnava festivals, the characteristics of Vishnu, and on Shakta days, those of Shakti, Divine Mother, would manifest in Sri Ramakrishna. For example, on the occasion of the worship of Sri Durga, especially at the time of junction worship, that is the Sandhi Puja, that is the junction, the Sandhi between the Navami and Ashtami. It is a very sacred time during which our Mother Durga had destroyed Mahishasura, the demon. So it was the victory of the divine over the evil. So that particular time, that junction between the Navami and Ashtami, so that is celebrated as Sandhi Puja. So it is very, very sacred during that period, during the Durga Puja, especially at the time of junction worship, Sandhi Puja done at the confluence of the junction of Ashtami and Navami days in the Navaratri worship, or during the worship of Mother Kali, Sri Ramakrishna used to feel identified with the Mother of the universe. He would be motionless, and sometimes his hands would assume the gestures like those of Kali, offering a boon with one hand and protection against all fears with the other. So how is that? We can see if the hand is like this, this is boon giving posture, Vara. Then if the hand is in this fashion, it is Abhaya. What is that Abhaya? Protection against all fears. Do not fear, I am here to protect you. That is Abhaya. Then if the hand is in this way, that is Vara. Whatever desires, good desires you have, I am going to fulfill. So that is Vara. Vara, Abhaya, Kara. Kara means hands. So Ramakrishna used to be seated in that posture with the Vara, Abhaya, Hasta. So during the period of Mother Kali's worship or Durga worship during the Sandhi Puja, with one hand offering a boon and protection against all fears with the other. Similarly, on ceremonial occasions like Janmashtami, that is the birthday of Krishna, Ashtami. Krishna was born on the 8th day of the fortnight. So Janma Ashtami, the 8 Sattvika Vaishnava signs, like while we remember God in the joy of God, there will be trembling in the body, horripilation, etc., were seen in him, and he would be completely absorbed in the thoughts of Radha and Krishna on those days. Again, those spiritual moods used to come to him naturally without any efforts whatsoever. For on many such occasions, if he were engaged in conversation with devotees on various other matters without any awareness of the day being auspicious to a special manifestation of the divine, it was observed that, as if by the pull of some extraneous power, his mind would be suddenly drawn away from the conversation and be completely absorbed in identification with a particular aspect of the divine. At Shamapukur in Calcutta, we have seen many similar instances. Once, engrossed in conversation with a large number of men, including Dr. Mahendra Lal Sarkar, the master suddenly entered into such an ecstasy at the time of the junction worship of Sri Durga, the Sandhi Puja. Having then seen his luminous face beaming with a splendorous smile, who would say that he had any illness, or even that he was the same person with the pale face, indicative of the suffering of the illness seen a moment ago? He would be a completely different person. There was a similar manifestation of a mood in the master's body and the mind that day, the day of the worship of the Palaharani. Sometimes filled with bliss, he, like a boy of 5, danced and sang the Divine Mother's names. All were charmed, gazing at the unprecedented beauty of his face. They were, moreover, experiencing in his hearts various wonderful divine emotions by virtue of the company of the God-man. The night came almost to an end, and when the Divine Mother's worship was finished, so nobody could take any rest. It was dawn. The whole night puja of Divine Mother will be there on Palaharani Kali Puja. Even now, if you go to Dakshineshwar or Belur Math or wherever in Bengal, especially in Orissa, Bengal, Assam, where the Divine Mother, wherever the Divine Mother is worshipped, during that Palaharini Kali Puja. Phala means fruits. What fruits is it? Palaharini means taking away. Harini means to steal or take away. Palaharini Kali Puja. What will she steal? What will she take away? What is the phala, the fruit that is taking away? We commit so many bad and good actions in our life. So bad actions are called sins and good actions are called punya, papa and punya. So the bad actions will bind us for us to undergo the sufferings. And the good actions, the meritorious deeds, punya, will bind us to enjoy the good things of life, enjoyments of the life. So now you may ask, why is it Divine Mother, yes, she can take away all the bad actions, Papa. But why should she take away the good actions too? That should be given, let us enjoy. But you have to notice that just like the bad actions, that is the Papa which is binding, it is just like a iron chain, a steel chain or a steel cage. The punya The meritorious deed is like the golden chain or golden cage. You may feel, oh, iron chain is binding and so suffering, we are in the iron chains. But when you are put the golden chain, you feel very happy. Oh, I am bound by a golden chain. I am bound in the golden cage. So you'll be very happy. But the internally or externally, both are binding, both are troublesome. Both will bind you. It will not allow you to have that infinite joy of the Lord who is already within you. You have that infinite consciousness, knowledge, absolute, infinite existence, absolute, and infinite joy, absolute. So instead of that, these two things will bind you to the world and give you very paltry joy or sorrow. So that's why both are binding. We have to go beyond both of them. So on this day, when you supplicate, when you pray to Divine Mother, she will take away all these bondages from us and she will free them. So it would be that whole night would be a very good atmosphere. So all of us would be awake the whole night that day, just like the Shivaratri. So all were experiencing that in their hearts various wonderful divine emotions by the virtue of the company of the God-man Sri Ramakrishna. The night came almost to an end when Mother's worship was finished. So nobody could take any rest. It was dawn. The next morning at about 8 or 9, Sri Ramakrishna saw that the portions of the special offerings of the day, which was to be sent to him according to the usual practice, had not yet arrived. He called his nephew Ramlal, the priest of the Kali temple, and asked him the reason. But he could not say anything. All the offers articles, said he, have as usual been sent to the chief temple officer. They are being distributed from there, and everyone is getting the share he is entitled to according to the established custom. But I cannot say why it has not reached here to you, Sri Ramakrishna, even now. Now the master became uneasy. The master was uneasy and troubled about it. He asked many persons, one after another, why has prasada not yet come from the office? And went on talking about it to everybody. He waited a little, but when he found that it had not reached him, even then, he put on his slippers and himself went to the chief, the temple officer. He asked the officer, hello, how is that the prasada of the Divine Mother due to that room? He would not tell for himself. So due to that room, showing his room, has not yet been sent as usual? Has there been a mistake? It is wrong that such a long-standing arrangement should be upset through a mistake. The officer looks too small and said, has it not reached there? That is very bad. That is very bad. I shall just now send it. Now, all the direct disciples, others, the devotees who were there, were watching keenly what Ramakrishna was doing. Especially Swami Yogananda was very young, a young boy at that time. You know, the adolescent boy's nature. Swami Yogananda, his name was Yogen. So Ramakrishna used to call him the avatar of Arjuna. He was Arjuna in his last birth. Swami Yogananda was then a boy. He was, of course, a little proud, as he was born in the ancient and respectable family of Savarna Chowdhuris. The chief official, other officers, priests, and others of the temple did not count at all in his estimation. But he had completely surrendered himself at the holy feet of Sri Ramakrishna on account of latter's disinterested grace and love. His home being adjacent to Rasamani's garden, it was convenient for him to visit Sri Ramakrishna daily. And how could he refrain from visiting? For the strange attraction of Sri Ramakrishna took him there by force, as it were, at the fixed time every day. Though thus respectful towards Sri Ramakrishna, he had not cultivated any familiarity with the temple officers. So on finding the master anxious over his portion of the temple prasad or offerings, he, instead of going to make inquiries about it, he blurted out, you know that young boys have this nature of fault finding. In that adolescent, everything they will be having that attitude. He blurted out, what does it matter if they don't come? If the prasada is not sent, what does it matter? And how precious these articles are. It is so small. These things again never suit your stomach. You can't digest that. You don't eat even that. The prasad will be in a very unsuitable condition for your stomach. If you eat that, you will be in trouble. So you are not eating that prasad. You take none of these things under such circumstances. Is there any harm if they are not at all sent to you? But apparently, without even hearing his objections, when the boy Yogananda objected in this way, apparently even without even hearing his objections, Sri Ramakrishna went in a hurry to ask the chief officer for the reason. Yogen then thought in his mind, he was thinking, how strange. He is a Paramahamsa, he is a Avatara Purusha, he is a realized soul, he is a Brahmagnani. How strange. Why is he so anxious today about those trifling prasad, fruits, roots and sweets? Why is he in this state of mind today? I never saw him thus agitated under any circumstances. When after a good deal of reflection, Yogananda could not find out any special reason whatever for it, he came at last to the conclusion. So finally, it's our nature, fault-finding nature. We come to very peculiar conclusions. Likewise, Yogananda also came to a very peculiar conclusion. Oh, I see it now. It is a family tradition. How? He is a priest, he is a Brahmana. So the family tradition that tells whether he be the Divine Lord himself, whether he is the Avatara himself or a realized soul himself, it is come in the family to be frugal. It's in their genes, the priests, the Brahmanas. So, oh, I see now, it is the family tradition that tells whether he be the Divine Lord himself or any other great personality. He is born in the family of priests, accustomed generation after generation to bundle of rice and plantain. So after doing puja, packing a bundle of rice, taking the dana, charity and other things, won't that family tradition cling to him at least a little? Because he is born into the family of priests. So naturally it will be in the genes. So won't that tradition, family tradition, cling to him at least? How else could this be accounted for? He never feels uneasy even over important matters, even if it is very, very important and very great, huge amount of money, he doesn't care for it. But what is this strange? He is behaving towards the prasada of the Kali temple. So he never feels uneasy even over important matters. But he has become so restless about this trifling affair. If that were not the fact, why is he so anxious for those food offerings which he cannot eat or use otherwise? It cannot but be the habit inherited from his ancestors, family tradition, priests. So they are little frugal, always bundling up, always taking the dana. So cogitating thus in his mind, Yogen, or as he was afterwards known, Swami Yogananda, arrived finally at that conclusion. So all these things is happening in his mind. He arrived at this conclusion and was waiting in his room. Sri Ramakrishna now returned and said to him, do you know, because what has happened in the mind, what Yogen had come to the conclusion that this is the bad nature of the Brahmanas to take the dana, and they will be always after that bundling up of the rice and the plantain and the money. So that hereditary nature has not gone. So all that thing, whatever he was cogitating thus in the mind, arrived finally to that conclusion. So he is having not a good opinion because of this behavior of Sri Ramakrishna. He was just thinking in his mind. He never blurted it out. But Sri Ramakrishna now returned and said to him, because Sri Ramakrishna could know the past, the future, the present, and also what is happening in the mind of others, what were the thoughts crossing in anybody. So Sri Ramakrishna could penetrate even the deepest parts of the mind and find out what are the thoughts, what are the things, what are the samskaras. So immediately, as soon as he came, Sri Ramakrishna now returned and said to him, to Yogen, do you know why I did so? Rasamani has bequeathed so much of property. All these things had been done by Rasamani. She has built this wonderful temple and made for all the offerings to the Divine Mother, so that Rasamani has bequeathed so much property so that holy men, sadhus and devotees, the bhaktas, may get prasada after the article of food have been offered to the Divine Mother. The food offerings sent here are invariably eaten by the devotees and the spiritual aspirants who are visiting this place. That fulfills the purpose of Rasamani's gift. But do you know how they, the managers, the priests of the temple, utilize these things? They sell all those things. They sell the rice for money. Some of them, again, they have prostitutes. They take these fruits, etc., to feed them. I am so disturbed and I fight so much in order that a little at least of Rasamani's intention is fulfilled. All the other things, prasada, all the other rice which is to be offered to God is sold and it is given away to all the bad people, and they make money, they give it to the bad people like prostitutes. At least that portion of the prasad which would come to me, I would distribute amongst the devotees. And the intention of Rani Rasamani to serve the devotees, to serve the sadhus, will be fulfilled. So Ramakrishna is telling, it is not because of the nature of the Brahmana, conjuse or frugal, but I fight so much in order that a little at least of Rani Rasamani's intention to serve the devotees, to serve the Divine Mother and to serve the sadhus, that is fulfilled. Swami Yogananda was surprised to hear it and thought, Ahmi, such is the hidden meaning even of this act of Sri Ramakrishna. And I started doubting so many other things. So naturally, it is but natural, our mind, our character, have all these things. We will immediately come to the conclusion, we will be judgmental. Whatever is there in the weaknesses in our mind, we superimpose it on others. So then after coming to know what was the intention of Sri Ramakrishna for being so restless and fighting for that, so Swami Yogananda was surprised to hear it and thought how much of feeling he has, anybody. So that's why you see, what is the Sri Krishna statement? Paritranaya sadhunam. So the divine, the Lord comes down for the protection of the good. See how much, to what an extent the divine incarnation will go, to such an extent that he even will try to protect the intention, the idea with which the devotee has given that money. So he will not allow that to be wasted. At least that portion of the punya should go. Otherwise, all the rice and other articles bequeathed for the Divine Mother, which is being sold, which is given to the other bad people. So by that, the person who has donated it may get sins out of it. At least that which comes to Sri Ramakrishna, if you use it properly, give it to the devotees, the bhaktas, the good people, then that punya will really serve the purpose of which Rasamani did it. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, the food offerings, the articles of food sent here invariably is eaten by the devotees only and the spiritual aspirants visiting this place. That fulfills the purpose of Rani Rasmani's gift. But do you know how the other priests and the temple authorities and the officers there utilize these things? They sell the rice and other articles for money. Some of them again keep prostitutes. They take these fruits and food offerings, etc., to feed them. I fight so much in order that a little at least of Rani Rasamani's intention is fulfilled. Swami Yogananda was surprised to hear it and thought, ah, me, such is the hidden meaning even of this act of Sri Ramakrishna. Ah, what a sweet relation Sri Ramakrishna thus established with Mathur. It is very clear that by virtue of motiveless grace of Sri Ramakrishna, Mathur's love was so intensified that Father became his very life. Sri Ramakrishna became his very life. Besides that, it was his behavior like that of a boy, which attracted Mathur in no small measure. Is there a man whose mind will not be attracted towards a boy, innocent of all worldly ways? Is there anyone who, being near him, will not keep an eye of concern on his sweet motiveless movements and go forward to protect him, lest he should be harmed in the excitement of the play? And again, there was not the slightest artificiality in the boy-like behavior of Sri Ramakrishna. There was no artificiality. He was childlike but not childish. And again, there was not the slightest artificiality in the boy-like behavior of Sri Ramakrishna. When he was in that mood, he looked just as a small boy, in every sense, genuinely incapable of protecting himself. Is it therefore strange that there arose in the powerful, vigorous, and intelligent Mathur a spontaneous inclination to protect him in all circumstances? Therefore, just as on the one hand, he depended on Sri Ramakrishna's divine power for his protection, so on the other hand, he always kept himself ready to protect Baba, Father Sri Ramakrishna, whom he knew to be like an inexperienced boy. When Mathur saw that there was thus a strange juxtaposition in Sri Ramakrishna of the all-knowing nature of the spiritual teacher and the little knowing nature of a boy, he perhaps came to some such conclusions as this, that he would have to protect Sri Ramakrishna as regards all worldly matters, including his personal safety, while Sri Ramakrishna would protect him in all matters pertaining to the subtle realm of spirituality that lay beyond human vision and power. We therefore see clearly that Mathur's love for Father Sri Ramakrishna assumed an unintelligible nature that was in keeping with the strange and mysterious personality of Sri Ramakrishna, was a wonderful meeting ground of a very complex aggregate of contrary attributes such as godhood and manhood, all-knowingness and little-knowingness. Although the father, Baba, established in Bhavamukha and having his hands in the posture, as he was then feeling himself identified with Divine Mother Kali, Palahari, form of the Divine Mother, with the Abhayahasta and Varahasta, Varabhayakara. Although Father established in Bhavamukha and having his hands in that posture, symbolic of bestowing boons and protection from fear, was the chosen ideal of Mathur. The latter had, however, sometimes to divert himself from the attitude of worshipful reverence towards him and console that very august Father who looked the living embodiment of simplicity and dependence in his childlike moods. The love of Mathur for him endowed him with the power of providing plausible explanations of all the queries and doubts of Sri Ramakrishna. One day, Sri Ramakrishna went out suddenly when he was talking with Mathur and returned with a sad face. He then asked Mathur, "Will you please tell me what this disease is? I saw a worm going out from my body with the urine. Nobody, I'm sure, has such worms within his body. What is it that has happened to me?" The very father who perhaps a little ago was charming everybody with wonderful explanation of the hidden spiritual truths was now besides himself like a boy with causeless anxiety, depending wholly on Mathur's intelligence and words of assurance. No sooner had Mathur heard this than he said, "Oh, it is very good, father, that it has happened to you. Everyone has a worm that generates lust in his body. It is this lust worm that produces various bad thoughts in him and makes him commit all evil actions. Thus, that lust worm has left your body by the grace of Divine Mother Kali. Why are you so uneasy about it?" As soon as Sri Ramakrishna heard this, he was consoled like a small baby and said, "Ah, you are right. How lucky it was that I asked you." Saying so, he expressed his joy like a small child. "You see," he said one day in the course of conversation to Mathur, "the mother has shown and convinced me that there are many devotees of mine who are to form an inner circle. They will all come and hear and know of God from here and will have direct knowledge of God, realize Him, and be blessed with divine love and knowledge. Divine Mother has shown me that so many people in future they are coming. The Mother will sport in various ways with this case. The case means his body. The Divine Mother will sport in various ways with this case, that is his body, and she will do good to many. That is why she has not broken this case, but has kept it on. What do you say about these? Are all these mere hallucination of my brain or real and true perception? Please tell that to me." So Sri Ramakrishna asked Mathur. Then Mathur replied, "Baba, father, why should they be hallucinations?" Said Mathur, "When the mother has not shown you anything deceptive up to this time, why should only this be wrong? This will also prove to be true. But why is there delay in their coming? I am waiting, they are not at all coming. Why is there so much delay? Divine Mother had shown that she will be sporting using this body and many devotees will come. They will all get the divine knowledge of the God and they will fulfill their life desire of God realization. They had to come to me. What you are telling is true. Yes, everything is not a hallucination because whatever has been shown has been fulfilled. Divine Mother will not be deceptive. But now, why is there delay in the coming of those great souls, the inner circle, the people who are going to gain God realization? They had to come. Let them by all means come soon. We shall then be together and be happy with them." Father was thereupon convinced that what the Divine Mother had shown was true. He then said, "I don't know when they will come, but the Divine Mother has said so. She has shown me that whatever is to happen by the Mother's will is going to happen, will happen." Rani Rasamani had no son, but had 4 daughters. Mathur Babu married the third, and after her death, the youngest daughter. The intelligent Rani fixed and marked in her lifetime the share of the estate of each of the son-in-laws, lest there should arise a dispute among themselves over the estate. One day, after the estate had been thus divided, Mathur Babu's wife, or as she was known in the family as the third mistress, went to bathe in the pond in another share of the estate, saw a luxuriant growth of the green susni there, plucked some and brought it away with her. It was Sri Ramakrishna only who saw her do it. As soon as he saw her doing that, Sri Ramakrishna was extremely worried. The third mistress thought the master has taken another's property without asking her for it. It is immoral. She did not think it an act of theft to another's property without her knowledge. And again, why should she covet another's property? He was thinking thus when he met the daughter of the Rani, to whose share the said pond had fallen. The master narrated to her immediately the whole incident. She could not control her laughter on hearing it and on seeing the serious mood of Sri Ramakrishna, as if the third mistress had acted very wrongly. She said humorously, "Ah, the third mistress acted very wrongly, father. Did she do it?" Just at that time, the third mistress also happened to come there. She also said jokingly, when she knew the reason of her sister's laughter, "Father, is it proper for you to expose me like this? I stole the greens and secretly took it away lest she should not see. You have thus put me out of countenance." Saying so, the two sisters burst into a roar of laughter. The master then said, "I don't know your worldly ways, but when the property has been divided, it is not good to take anything without the knowledge of the owner. This is why I told her all this, so that she might know it and settle matters as she liked." The daughter of the Rani Rasmani the daughters, both of them, began to laugh all the more at his words and thought how frank and naive Father Sri Ramakrishna was. On the one hand, Sri Ramakrishna had such a childlike nature that made him depend on Mathur. On the other, there were occasions when the position was reversed and Mathur became the suppliant needing protection from Sri Ramakrishna. There were sometimes quarrels between Mathur and other landlords, leading to free fights between their followers. On one such occasion, the other parties, that servants, in that fight, a murder was committed and the other person, landlord's person, died. And Mathur was in great danger of criminal proceedings. He therefore came imploring to Sri Ramakrishna, "Father, Father, save me." Now Sri Ramakrishna grew angry at first and scolded Mathur much. "You rascal," said he, "you will create an affray every day and come and say, 'Save me, save me.' What can I do? Go and suffer the consequences. What do I know?" Then, on account of the importunities, Sri Ramakrishna said, granting his prayer, Well, whatever is to happen by the mother's will happen. Do not worry, go." And as the matter of fact, the danger passed away. Many are the examples that reveal these two aspects of Sri Ramakrishna's personality, having had such experiences. Mathur was firmly convinced that it was by the grace of Father Baba, Sri Ramakrishna, of many-sided personality, that he possessed whatever he had, namely wealth, respect, power, and everything. Therefore, there is nothing to be surprised at in the royal honor that Mathur paid to Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of God, and at the unflinching devotion and steadfast faith he evinced in respect of him. The extent of worldly men's devotion can be gauged by the amount of money they are prepared to spend for the objects of their devotion. Especially, it is so in the case of a person like Mathur, who, like most clever men of the world, was somewhat miserly in spending money on others. It was therefore due to the intensity of Mathur's faith in Sri Ramakrishna and devotion for him that he spent money unstintedly on Sri Ramakrishna. Mathur once dressed him in a beautiful attire and seated him to witness a yatra performance. Yatra means the drama. Jatra, what we call in South India Jatra, it is a big fair, and on that day the dramas will be there and people will come to watch it. So much of the enjoyment there, so many people selling that and this, so the drama will be going on. So that is called Yatra or Jatra in Bengal. So Mathur once dressed Sri Ramakrishna in beautiful attire and seated him to witness a Jatra performance, that is the drama performance, placing before him 100 rupees or more in stacks of 10 rupees each for him to give as rewards to the singers and actors. So 100 rupees of those time, that is the 1850s or 1840s, is very, very huge. So maybe it will be something to the tune of 100,000 or something like that. So he had kept stacks of that 10 rupees each for him to give as rewards to the singers and actors. Father went on listening to the performance of the yatra. The actors were singing and acting and the show was going on. So in those days the yatras and other things would be of the Puranic story, the mythological story, the Puranas of Prahalada or of Ramayana or Mahabharata or any of those things of gods and goddesses. So the performance, the drama and other things were going on. The musicians were singing and so many musical instruments were being played. Father went on listening to the drama, the yatra, the music, and when he experienced deep spiritual emotion or was charmed with some captivating song on the god or goddess or the speech of an actor, he immediately pushed the entire sum of money with his hand towards the person concerned and rewarded him with that. Now, the whole 100 rupees, that stack is gone. He gave it to one person that was placed there to be distributed little by little. But in that spiritual mood, hearing that beautiful song or the performance of the actor, Ramakrishna would be so impressed. In that spiritual mood, he would just push everything towards that actor, rewarded him with that. But when that was done, such huge amount was given to just one actor. So Mathur would not feel bad that he had to stack much more money there. Mathur was not at all annoyed at it. He expressed his joy, saying, "A reward just befitting the high mind of Sri Ramakrishna." He placed stacks of coins and money over again in similar rows before him. How long could that money last with Sri Ramakrishna, who had become established in Bhavamukha and had always been absolutely free from covetousness owing to his conviction? Money is earth, earth is money. For him, the coins, the gold and everything was just mud. He didn't know the difference. So beside himself with the overwhelming inebriation of divine emotions, he would give away once more the whole amount at once. Afterwards, finding no money near him, Sri Ramakrishna took off his own costly shawl, that precious shawl which was given by Mathur to cover him now, and the precious cloth with which Mathur had adorned his own person, and gave them away as presents, remaining motionless in samadhi with the divine consciousness alone as his garments. Mathur, filled with bliss, thought that his money had been put to its proper use and began to fan Sri Ramakrishna. So he would not be upset, he would not get angry that all the money was gone and all the beautiful cloths which he had given and covered Sri Ramakrishna's body were given away to the actors and the actresses, or the singers and the musicians there who were performing the divine music and the devotional songs and the mythological Puranic stories as yatras or dramas. So Mathur would not be upset. He'd be very happy. So even though the costly cloths were also given away, even then Mathur would be very happy. Filled with bliss, thought that his money had been put to its proper use, and he began to fan Sri Ramakrishna like a servant. So he was like a king. Now he used to behave like a servant of Sri Ramakrishna. I would be fanning him, serving him. Many are the examples of the liberality of the miserly Mathur for pleasing Sri Ramakrishna. He took the master with him when he made his pilgrimage to Kashi, that is Varanasi, then Vrindavan and other holy places. So when he wanted to go to all these places, his own comforts were not at all in his mind. He was more intended or interested in taking Sri Ramakrishna to all those places. So he was just like a servant doing all the services to Sri Ramakrishna, and he made all arrangement to go to the sacred places, the pilgrimage sites like Varanasi or Kashi and Vrindavan. The Kashi is the place where Sri Vishwanatha, the Lord of the universe, the Lord Shiva is seated, and Vrindavan is the sport, the place where Krishna as a boy sported there, and Mathura there nearby, 25 kilometers nearby, is the birthplace and other holy places. At Kashi, Mathur Babu obeyed Sri Ramakrishna's words, and like a wish-fulfilling tree, like a Kalpa Vriksha, made liberal gifts. He gave to everyone whatever articles they asked for. Dana, charity. He requested Sri Ramakrishna also to ask for something at that time, because when you go to pilgrimages, in the place of pilgrimage, whatever dana or charity you do will be multiplied maybe 100 times or more. Whenever you do the charity, the sadhana, the japa, the meditation, or whatever religious practices, whatever you do in the sacred pilgrimage sites, or during the what you call grahana, or some sacred times, moments like the festivals, whatever charity and whatever good things like japa, meditation, or any religious activities, homa, havan, the fruit of that, the result of that, the karma phala, which will multiply more than 100 times or many times. That's why Mathur Babu, on the behest of Sri Ramakrishna, started giving so many articles to different people in Kashi, Vrindavan and other places. Not only that, he requested Sri Ramakrishna also to ask for something at that time, but Sri Ramakrishna could find nothing of which he was in need. He said, okay, if you so wish that you want to give something, give me a water pot, kamandalu. A water pot, kamandalu. The sadhus, while going as itinerant monks, they will have a small water pot, kamandalu. So they will carry water. Master's heart was filled with compassion to see the poverty and misery of the village people when going through that village near Vaidyanatha at the place at the time of his pilgrimage to Kashi, Vrindavan and other places with Mathur. So Sri Ramakrishna, seeing their sad plight, the poverty, seeing their emaciated bodies, no oil to the hair, so seeing that misery, their condition, no food for many days, Sri Ramakrishna told Mathur, you are Mathur, said he to Mathur, but a manager of the mother's estate. So now a very great message is sent to us. We all think that we are most of you are the owners of your family. You are the owners of the money and the property which you have. That's a wrong idea. You thought you have earned the money or it has come from your forefathers. So you are the owner, you are just like a king, you are the rich person, all the things in your house belong to you. But Sri Ramakrishna is giving you a wonderful transformation. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling Mathur, Mathur, you are only but a manager, a trustee of the Divine Mother's estate. All this property, what you own, the rich things you have, everything, the property which you own, you are not the master. It is the Divine Mother's estate, and you are only a manager or a trustee, that's all. You are but a manager of the Mother's estate. All these has been given to you by the Divine Mother. It belongs to her. So give these people, the poor people, sufficient oil to cool their heads, and each a piece of cloth to wear, to cover their body. They are scantily covered because they are so poor. And feed them to their fill once at least. They should have sufficient food. Feed them at least once full. At first, Mathur was a little hesitant. Because of his miserly nature, he was a little hesitant and said, Father, the pilgrimage, we are going to Kashi now. We are only midway. Vaidyanatha is only the beginning. As you cross Bengal, you go to that next state, now Jharkhand. And if you go a little forward, then you get this Vaidyanatha. After that, you have to go still long distance to reach Kashi. So we are on the way to pilgrimage. And if we spend all this money on these poor people, then there will be no money left for us to go to the pilgrimage. Father, the pilgrimage will require much money, and there are so many poor people here, too many poor. I may later be in want of money if I begin to do all that, if I go on giving all this food and oil to the hair and clothing and also the food, then the money will be spent and we will not have sufficient money for the pilgrimage. What do you advise under these circumstances? But Sri Ramakrishna was not satisfied with his reply. Sri Ramakrishna was so overwhelmed seeing the bad plight, the misery, the poverty of those poor people. They are in no way connected to him. But he could see his own self, the God residing in all those poor people. He started shedding tears incessantly, feeling for the poor people there. Can you imagine? Sri Ramakrishna is feeling so much. He started shedding incessant tears for them. That's why in that Dhyana Shloka, we can see that Vitaritum Avatiranam Gnana Bhakti Prashanti Pranaya Galita Chittam. His mind is soaked in love and compassion to the living beings. Pranaya Galita Chittam Jiva Dukkha Asahishnum. He cannot bear, he cannot see the miseries, he cannot withstand the pain and miseries of the people, poor people. Jiva Dukkha Asahishnum. Any living being, if it has pain or suffering, he cannot withstand that. Asahishnum. He cannot bear it. So that is the sympathy, that is the empathy, the kindness, the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. His heart was filled with compassion to those poverty-stricken and the misery-stricken village people there. So when Mathur told the money is not sufficient, what shall we do? Sri Ramakrishna was not satisfied with his reply. There was an incessant flow of tears. There was incessant flow of tears from Sri Ramakrishna's eyes to see the misery of those villagers. He started crying. He couldn't withstand the plight and the sad condition of those poor people, tribals. It was a village and in no way were they connected. But Sri Ramakrishna couldn't bear the misery and the poverty of those people. There was an incessant flow of tears from his eyes to see the misery of the villagers, and his heart was filled with an unprecedented compassion. So he told Mathur, you rascal Mathur, I will not go to your Kashi. I don't want Kashi or Vrindavan or any other place. I don't want to go to any other place. I will remain here with these poor people. I will not come forsaking these poor people. I will remain here with these poor people. They have none to call their own. They are so orphan-like, nobody to call their own, nobody to take care of them. I will remain here with them. I will not come to Kashi or any other place, or even back to Calcutta to your place. They don't have anybody to call as their own. I will not leave them behind in this condition and go away. Saying so, he became obstinate like a boy and went and sat down in the midst of those poor people. So he went and sat in the middle of the poor people, amongst the poor people. Seeing such compassion in Sri Ramakrishna, now Mathur couldn't contain. Seeing that state of Sri Ramakrishna, tears flowing incessantly for the poor people, told, I am not going to Kashi or anywhere. I am not coming back to Calcutta. I will stay with these people. I will look after these people. They have none to call their own. I will not leave them and go away from them. Saying so, he became obstinate like a boy and went and sat down amongst the poor people. Seeing such compassion in Sri Ramakrishna, Mathur immediately had bundles of cloth, tan and tan of cloth, so many bundles of cloth, bought from Calcutta immediately and did as father had asked him to do. So he gave them cloth to cover their bodies. He bought oil and gave them to put on their heads and to their body because it was so wrinkled and emaciated due to the sun. Then he gave them a full sumptuous meal, lot of food to eat. So Mathur had bundles of cloth brought from Calcutta and did as father had asked him to do, besides himself with joy to see the villagers happy. Now Sri Ramakrishna, that sad mood, melancholy mood went away. He saw that all the poor people, when they were fed, when they were given the cloth and they were given the oil for their head and the body, skin to be massaged with the oil, then the gleeful atmosphere, the wonderful joy, the smile on the face of these poor people also made Sri Ramakrishna happy. Now Sri Ramakrishna became happy like a small boy. Besides himself with joy to see the villagers happy, Father Baba Ramakrishna also bade goodbye to them and started gladly with Mathur on his journey to Kashi. Now what was the feeling in the heart of Sri Ramakrishna? When Lord Shiva, whom you think is in Kashi, is suffering in the form of these poor people, in the needy people, in the suffering people, how can you forsake the living Shiva in the form of the poor people and go to see the stone image of Shiva in Kashi? If you cannot see in the poor, in the living, in the diseased, how can you see there in the stone image? So Ramakrishna has taught us a wonderful lesson that Shiva not only is existing, or the Lord Narayana is not only existing in Kashi or Vrindavan, but is existing, is manifested more in all the living beings. So we have to serve the poor. That is what Narendra told, that the highest practical wisdom of Vedanta was given to me by Sri Ramakrishna. And what was that? When somebody was reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it was told the teachings to the Vaishnavas where you have to have faith and devotion to Lord Vishnu, Hari. Then you have to do the Harinam, take the name of Hari, and you have to have respect and serve the devotees, Vaishnavas, and you should have the daya, compassion, daya towards the living beings. When the teaching came, when the teaching was uttered that you should have daya to the living beings, suddenly Sri Ramakrishna went into a very high state of samadhi, emotion, the mood, telling daya, jive daya, jive daya, daya to the living beings, jivas. He went into samadhi. Then after staying in that samadhi, he came down. This happened in the room of Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar, when many other direct disciples, householder disciples, all were there. So when he came back, Narendra was observing. Sri Ramakrishna told, today is the birthday of that great soul Swami Vivekananda, Narendra. He was also there as a young boy. So Sri Ramakrishna, coming down from that samadhi, he uttered, Jive Daya. Jive Daya? What? You want to show compassion to the living beings? Daya to the living beings? Who are you to show daya? Who are you to show compassion? You are, after all, you are a yakaschit. You are after all a very puny human being. And can you show daya, compassion to the living beings? Only Ishvara, the Lord God, can show daya. Then what are we to do? What are the human beings can do? Daya noi, it is not daya. Seva, daya noi, seva, it is not daya, it is not compassion, it is seva, service. It is not sympathy but empathy. We see so many poor people, we see orphans, we go to a movie or something, see the story, tragedy of the orphan, cry there with so much of kerchief being wet. But when we come out, we see the poor people, poor children there roaming. We don't even care to help them. We go away. So, shame. In South Africa, that is the usage. Shame. It should not have happened like that. Shame. That boy should have not suffered. Shame. That accident should have not happened. That's all. There ends the matter. That is sympathy, daya. But Ramakrishna is scolding us, telling us, daya? What? Who are you to show daya? Only Shiva, Ishvara. Only the Lord can show daya. Then what are we to do? Serve, seva, daya noi. Not only daya should be there, the compassion should be there, but it should be transformed into seva, into service, into empathy. That is what Sri Ramakrishna is telling. How should we serve? What is the way? How are we to serve? Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Ramakrishna gave that wonderful teaching there. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Seeing Lord Shiva in all the living beings, you have to serve all the living beings. That is the true empathy or sympathy. Not just expressing that with your words and forgetting everything. Shame, it should not have happened. That is not Ramakrishna is teaching us. He is telling, no, daya nai. It's not just daya, compassion, and just going away. You are insulting the Lord who is in them. Then how should you service? How should you worship the living beings, the Lord in the living beings? By seva. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. After hearing that wonderful statement from Sri Ramakrishna's sacred lips, Narendra was also a young boy. Many other direct disciples were there. Nobody could get any special thing from it. It was only Narendra. So many other direct disciples and so many other grihasthas, the householder disciples, were all sitting there. Nobody could get anything special out of these words. It was only Narendra. He came out and he was standing there in a high state of mind and he was telling all others, today Sri Ramakrishna has given the highest Vedantic truth, which can be practiced, practical Vedanta, the highest Vedantic truth put into practice. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. If I am given an opportunity, I will spread this truth to every houses in the whole world. I will take it to door to all the people, this truth. And Narendra did it after as Swami Vivekananda started this Ramakrishna Sangha to spread this great truth, not only spread, to perform. Wherever there is flood, wherever there is tsunami, wherever there is cyclones, wherever there is earthquakes, any problem, plague, now the present coronavirus, everywhere the Ramakrishna Sangha, the sadhus are not caring for their life, risking their own life. They are going to every places and serving even now. And after that, that will be the primary relief. Then the secondary relief and so many other ways, giving them education, giving them training. So many ways the Ramakrishna Sangha has been trained, has been formulated in such a way to serve the poor and the needy, and that work is still going on. So that idea given by Sri Ramakrishna, the first relief action, the first relief work for the poor was started by Sri Ramakrishna himself in that Vaidyanatha. How he made Mathur to help them, how he sat in the midst of those poor people telling that I'm not going to go anywhere. There are nobody to look after them. I will stay and serve them. I'm not going to Kashi. Who wants to go to Kashi or Vrindavan? I will stay amongst these poor people. Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna is here. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. So many people translate that as Madhava Gnane Manava Seva. Jana, Janardana in Jana. Seeing Janardana in the Jana. In the Manava, Madhava. Narayana in the Nara. So we can translate it to anything. Divine Mother also in the Nara, whatever. So Ramakrishna is given there as a Shivajnane Jiva Seva. And that wonderful truth, that practical Vedanta has been put into practice and is being also preached again here also in South Africa. We can see our volunteers going to house and serving the devotees wherever they are. Some other foreign nationals like the neighboring countries, Zimbabwe people were poor, they were not getting any food. Our volunteers rushed there. Some destitute house, boys were in trouble. Our volunteers rushed there with food. And another Tamil Sangam, some temple there near Pretoria, they were in need. Our volunteers rushed there, helped them, gave them different kinds of help. Another temple, Meenakshi temple, called us. So all our volunteers rushed there in spite of risking their life. So you can see that message of Sri Ramakrishna given to us all by Swami Vivekananda in a practical way, and they are bringing down that Vedantic, highest Vedantic truth in the form of practice. Everywhere, all over the globe, not only in India, everywhere you can see that. So it was Sri Ramakrishna himself who started the relief work there in Vaidyanatha. So the first service, Shivagnane Jiva Seva, was performed by none other than Sri Ramakrishna himself, seeing Lord Shiva and all the poor people. So he gave them, when they were happy, when all that poor tribal people were happy there, he too was happy. He felt so much of joy. Then only he bid goodbye. Otherwise he told, I'm not going anywhere. I will sit down. I will stay with them. So how much of compassion you can see. It is not just artificial. It does not come superficial. But you can see that coming from the depths. It didn't end there. It then converted, it got transformed through Narendra as the Ramakrishna Sangha order. And that spirit is still going on through all the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, expressing itself in the form of service. So now Sri Ramakrishna, besides himself with joy to see the villagers happy, the real joy is in the joy of others. We think that our own joy, selfish joy, will make us happy. No, it will make us more unhappy. It will go on increasing. The more selfish we become, the more we want to get joy for ourselves. That will make us sad and depression. The more you feel for others, the more you work for others, the more you see the joy of other people, then that will really give you the joy. So real joy, real happiness is in the happiness and joy of others. That is very, very important, the lesson we have learned today. So start practicing this wonderful teaching of Sri Ramakrishna, the highest practical Vedanta, and you will see that you can also be happy all the time. Don't lock up yourself in the dark room and want to get the joy of meditation and other thing. That also you can do. But once when a youth locked up himself for many days inside a room, closing his windows and doors, then he came to Vivekananda That was somewhere in Rajasthan, I think, if I'm right. When Vivekananda was going as a itinerant monk, he told Swamiji, I locked up myself in a room for many days. I meditated on God. Nothing happened. I'm still sorrowful. I'm sad. Then Swami Vivekananda told, my dear child, if you really want joy, then don't lock up yourself. Open the doors, open the windows, come out. Come out to the world. See how many people are suffering without food, without education, without clothing. Go, give them whatever, share whatever you have, whatever little knowledge you have, give them education, help the poor people, serve them, and see then real joy will come to you. That is real joy. Swami Vivekananda gave that wonderful teaching that you don't lock up yourself, come out to the world, see the poor people, help them, see the needy. That's why Swami Vivekananda boldly used to tell, if the Upanishads and the Vedas are telling, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Go on writing down. I'm going to give some more truths like that, because he was also one of the Saptarishis, and he was Lord Shiva himself. He's telling, not only the Upanishad, the Rishis are given you, I'm going to give you the truths. Take it down. The Upanishads have told, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Take down, I'm going to give you much more. What are they? Dina Devo Bhava, Dalita Devo Bhava, Dukki Devo Bhava, Daridra Devo Bhava, Dushta Devo Bhava. Let the poor be your gods. Let the diseased be your gods. Let the bad guys who are suffering there should be transformed into good. They be your God. Let the poor be your God. These are all the statements given by Swami Vivekananda. So this contains the practical Vedanta brought to practice to the ordinary level. So until the religion which we profess, if it is only at that higher level, what is the use? Until you don't bring that to the day-to-day life and help the people to be happy and yourself be happy, then what is the use of such a religion? That's what the Avatara Purusha has come down to show the essence of religion. That's why Swami Vivekananda proclaimed the Samam Bonam, the crux, the summary or the essence of religion is only in a small sentence it tells. This is the essence of all the religion and all the things. Truth. Be good, do good. Be good, do good. That's all. This is the essence of all the religions. So sweet and small. We go on doing so many things, thinking that religion, going here, there, and everywhere. So simple. So Vivekananda tells, be good and do good. Be good and do good. That's all. So Father was very happy. Sri Ramakrishna was besides himself with joy to see the villagers happy, the poor people happy. Ramakrishna also bade goodbye to them and started gladly with Mathur on his journey to Varanasi and Vrindavan. We are told that Sri Ramakrishna went on another occasion with Mathur to a certain village in his estate near Ranaghat in Calcutta itself, where he was seized with a similar compassion to see the miserable plight of the villagers, the poor people, and he made Mathur to do likewise once again. So wherever he used to go see the poor people, he used to ask Mathur to serve them. But for himself, when Mathur wanted to give him the property, the money, or any pleasures, he would not take it. But he would make Mathur to give all these things to the poor people, but on himself, he would not take. He was very strict about that. The Vairagya, the renunciation, nothing for himself, but he would make Mathur to spend money on the poor, on the needy. So many times this might have happened. It has been recorded only this. So like that, now afterwards, the Ramakrishna Sangha is following the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Identified with the Supreme Divinity as a spiritual teacher. So the spiritual teacher is not out of ego giving some advices, but the spiritual teacher, that attitude, Guru Bhava is manifesting because he is identifying himself with the cosmic I, the universal I, the Ishvara, the Parabrahma. identified with the Supreme Divinity as the spiritual teacher. Sri Ramakrishna bound Mathurnath Babu to himself forever in a sweet relationship. Such unprecedented relation with Mathurnath was the mature result of Sri Ramakrishna's prayer to the Divine Mother. At one time during the sadhana, under the influence of a sudden strange mood, he had prayed, Mother, do not make me a dry sadhu. When you study too much of Vedanta, the tendency is to become too dry. Your emotions will dry up. Then you will have not that devotion. So I don't want to become such a dry sadhu. Keep me appreciative of your creative bliss. For as a result of that prayer, Divine Mother showed him 4 persons, the suppliers of provisions, Rasaddaras, who had been sent with him into the world for the maintenance of Sri Ramakrishna's body by providing him with the necessities of this life, and Mathurnath was the first and foremost of them. Could this relation have remained unimpaired for so long a time if he had not been determined by Providence? Alas, O world, how many such pure and sweet relations have you seen so far? And alas, O desire for enjoyment, with what an adamantine chain have you bound man? Although we have seen and established our relationship with such a wonderful master, a being so pure, illumined, and untrammeled, a veritable image of selfless love, our minds even now cast a longing, lingering look at lower objects, while one day a friend was listening attentively and with amazement to the story of Mathurnath from the master himself, and he asked master in great admiration for Mathurnath for his unprecedented good fortune, what happened to him? So Ramakrishna was questioned by the devotee, what happened to Mathur? Sir, after the death, what happened to Mathur? It is certain he will not have been born again, he will have got mukti. Questioned so, Sri Ramakrishna answered, he must have taken birth as a king somewhere, for he had the desire for enjoyments. Saying so, he immediately started another topic. So we will end our conversation here and we will get ready for the worship of Swami Vivekananda in different ways. So there will be with the Dravya, the puja articles, worship. Then through the knowledge, offering of the knowledge to the people, there will be the worship of the knowledge. Then there will be worship through the music. So 2 young brothers, Ayush and Lakshya Mohan, they are playing Sarod, the duet of Sarod and Sitar. And there will be other different bhajans, there will be other different things today from 6 o'clock. All are welcome to enjoy that birthday celebration, the service to Swami Vivekananda, the great teacher. So tomorrow, that is Friday again, we are having the same conversation of the great master. We will meet again in the evening and also tomorrow. Thank you very much. Before closing this discussion with a prayer, we can devote some time for question and answers if you have any. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
Pranam Swamiji, Colin Shetty here, Swamiji.
Namaste, Colin Shetty ji, please tell.
Swamiji, how fortunate those poor people were to receive the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna. We in this group also beggars. We may have all material things, but we are also beggars for Sri Ramakrishna's love. So it's a wonderful lesson that we need to, what we have learned. But we have to beg for his love, just like the poor people of the village that he went through. So
Definitely. We are really lucky to get all these things, and if we can practice it in our life, it will be still wonderful.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay. Okay, then we can conclude the session with a prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaः Sarvayajneshwaro Harihi Tasman Tushte Jagat Tushtam Pridite Prinitam Jagat Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Namaskar to all of you. Om Namo Narayana.